and 7 p.m. in Rome, where the Committee on World Food Security is headquartered. And we warmly welcome you to this press conference to announce the new members of the CFS high-level panel of experts, or as we're increasingly calling it, the IPCC for food. My name is Waiganja Njoroge. I'm the CFS Head of Communications, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all from wherever around the world you're joining us this afternoon, this morning, this evening. As a majority of you know, this week, on Thursday to be specific, the UN Secretary General will be hosting the UN Food Systems Summit. And it's ahead of that summit that the Committee on World Food Security, that is the UN's unique body where every stakeholder comes together to work on matters concerning food security and nutrition, is unveiling the new steering committee of its high-level panel of experts. As the majority of you know, this is a pivotal year for food security and nutrition. A number of convenings besides the UN food systems are happening. We know there is the climate change COP that's coming up. We have the biodiversity COP that's coming up. Later in the year, we have the Nutrition for Growth Summit. But more importantly, given the staggering scale, and you'll be hearing more about this from our experts, the staggering scale of global food insecurity and malnutrition, science has never been more critical, especially to inform policymaking. And so the scientists that we're going to introduce to you today as members of the steering committee of HLPE have their jobs cut out for them, right? And to take us through these, we have a number of speakers, three to be specific. First off is my boss, Chris Hegadorn, who is the secretary of the Committee on World Food Security. We have Martin Cole. Martin, is really good to see you. He's joining us all the way from Australia. I don't want to say it's an ungodly hour for you, but thank you for being up this early to join us. And Martin chairs the HLPE Steering Committee. And we'll also hear from Ismahane Elouafi, who is the FAO, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, chief scientist. And we are talking science. We also have a number of the new HLPE Steering Committee members present, as well as some of the outgoing members to whom we owe a massive debt of gratitude. But before I give the floor to the first speaker, I would like to remind us all that this is a press conference, and so we have a number of journalists who have joined us, and we warmly, warmly welcome you, representatives of media who have joined us, and we give you priority to ask your questions, either to the three speakers or to any of the steering committee members. We'll invite you to post your questions on chat, and I'll be directing those questions in the second part of this session. My colleagues have put on chat a request that you rename yourselves, so please do so by stating your name and the institution or country that you are representing. We also acknowledge the CFS members that have joined us today. And at this point, I will invite Chris Hegadorn to give us a framing of why are we doing this, Chris? Why is this important? Please unmute yourself, Chris.
Yep, I'm so used to saying that myself. Thank you, Waiganjo. Great to see everybody here this evening. Appreciate you making time in a very busy week and a very busy month for this event. I'm Chris Hegadorn, Secretary of the Committee on World Food Security, the CFS, which is a UN committee supported jointly by the three Rome-based food agencies, the FAO, the WFP, IFAD, that bring together countries, UN agencies and experts, researchers, civil society, private sector, the World Bank, foundations, and others to provide negotiated policy guidance to end hunger and malnutrition in all its forms. With the Food Systems Summit taking place in 2 days, we wanted to make sure that people understand how CFS fits into the picture, what we will bring to the table for transforming the global food system. The CFS chair will speak at the summit and offer the CFS as the model of inclusive science-based policy convergence and guidance for countries to benefit from, as well as many others, as they start doing the very hard work of transforming their food systems. CFS is a unique UN platform reformed in 2009 that has been producing first-rate negotiated policy products on key topics that impact global food security and nutrition, from land tenure to the right to food, from climate change to agroecology and other innovative approaches. In February, the CFS adopted the voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition, which started from the CFS high-level panel of experts, the CFS HLPE, and their outstanding report, which formed the substantive basis from which our guidelines were developed, consulted, negotiated, and eventually adopted by 130 plus member states at CFS 47 in February. The result of 5+ years of work, these guidelines offer the first and only multilaterally negotiated UN document that connects the dots on food systems in all their complexity. If you don't know them, you should, especially in light of the numerous national transition pathways being launched at this week's summit. Governments ought to be using these guidelines as a central organizing resource. Please help us make sure governments are doing just that. Without HLPE's report number 12 on nutrition and food systems, we could not have finalized those guidelines. So our strongest thanks to the panel, past, present, and future members. We celebrate your impressive accomplishments here this afternoon and evening. HLPE's report number 15 is an absolute must read for anyone following the food security debate, as it lays clear a pathway for achieving SDG 2 and the 2030 agenda. HLPE's report number 14 on agroecology and other innovations, and its report 16 on youth are simply unrivaled, showcasing the panel's high standards and its uncompromising commitment to transparency, inclusivity, and the broadest scope of science input, including social sciences. Let me also congratulate the integrity and professionalism of the current and outgoing chair, Dr. Martin Cole, who has, at every step over the past 2 years, demonstrated why the CFS HLPE remains a jewel in the crown of the UN system's work to promote science in the realm of policymaking. So to all those serving for a few more weeks on the HLPE, kudos to you for your outstanding work, responding effectively to the CFS membership and collaborating with the CFS chair, the Bureau, and the Secretariat time and time again. Your superb issues paper on COVID-19 reflects your commitment to a hunger-free world with human rights at its core. I also congratulate the newest steering committee, many of whom I know and respect, who I am certain will excel at producing our next 2 reports, one on data collection and analysis tools next year, and the following year on inequalities, as well as tracking COVID-19 and other emerging threats. Martin Cole, my warmest regards to you for all you've done to serve the committee and for leading the UN system's core science policy interface on food. We look forward to remaining in touch with you and others in the CFS HLPE's top-notch global network of scientists. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris, for those framing remarks. And I pick it up from where you have stopped. Martin Cole, you have done an incredible job steering the HLP Steering Committee at a time that has been unprecedented. Would you please tell us a little more about HLP, what it does, what have you achieved, and where are we going next? In a sense, define the role for the team that's coming in.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks, Chris, for those very warm words. It really has been, I do have to say, that's been an amazing team effort in an unprecedented situation in this current team. I mean, we always talk on the committee about really sitting on the shoulders of giants. So I think, although we're here to talk about the new committee and to launch that, I did want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the amazing contribution since the reform of past committee members, and particularly acknowledge the current committee. Swami Nathan, I think, kind of hoped that this would be the coalition of the willing in the elimination of hunger, and it certainly has been, in terms of international collaboration and science policy interface, it really has been an amazing experience. You know, think about this term, the current committee, we actually only met once face-to-face in Rome, and then we had to get straight into virtual. So imagine trying to wrestle with the issues that we wrestle with, very complex issues around the reports, complex issues of food security. Imagine doing that virtually. So I really want to acknowledge the team for amazing dedication during that time, and also the Secretariat put a lot of real pressure on the Secretariat to help us with that. If I could just ask Paola to put up the first slide. You know, I think absolutely unprecedented times. I think if you go to the second slide, Paola. Thanks for that. I thought I'd just share with you a couple of perspectives before we hand over to Ismahane. You know, we're in an unprecedented time. If the last decade was about really understanding the complexity of the issues that we're dealing with food security, the intersection with the health of us and the health of the planet, then, you know, the next decade really has to be a decade of action. Even before COVID-19, we're facing many issues. We reckon that the current pandemic has added, you know, probably 120 million more to the folks that are insecure. So really massive challenges that we're facing, and this interface, science policy interface, is absolutely crucial as we move forward. At any one time, I'll just put this together. At any one time, the committee is working on, you know, developing new reports. It's delivering. So just during this term, it's delivered on the global narrative. As Chris has said, absolutely crucial high-level policy levers we need to pull in terms of driving the theory of change there. Excellent report on promoting youth. They're going to be really in the thick of this. They're going to be inheriting what we leave behind. And so engaging youth in the right manner. And then really, you know, reacting in a very emergency situation, really, to give some urgent advice for COVID-19, especially around social protection mechanisms. This was an unprecedented time, so we used the issue papers process to do that. And then, you know, from previous reports, then CFS then are obviously then doing the translation into policy, as Chris had mentioned, voluntary. So during this term, voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition, and also, you know, kind of very complex issue of agroecology, policy recommendations on ecological and other innovations. I think it's worth also just noting that although the committee is only 15, by the time we put a project team together, by the time we've done all of the e-consultation and the peer review around the reports, many hundreds of experts and scientists have actually contributed to the work. So we need to acknowledge that as well. So with that, I think we're going to hand on to Ismahane, and I'll be rejoining you to welcome and introduce the new committee in a while. Thank you.
Many, many thanks, Martin. And once again, just looking at the breadth and depth of the work that you and your team have managed to put together, it's incredible, just given the difficult circumstances you're working under, but also the responsiveness with which you worked to probably be amongst the first that looked at the issues of COVID-19 and food security through that issues paper. And my colleague Martin is posting those on chat for further reference. I will now invite Dr. Ismahane Elouafi, who had an almost impossible task of chairing that process of selecting 15 out of a huge pool of applications. And typical to CFS's nature, the process has to be inclusive, transparent. So Ismahane, take us through what that process was.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Chair of HLPE. CFS Secretary, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. And it's my pleasure as the chair of the selection committee really to give you a bit of what did we do to really select those 15 experts and renowned scientists to form the new HLPE high-level panel experts. So before I start, let me first stress that this year it's a crucial year. It is a crucial year because we are all hoping we're gonna build back better after COVID-19, but also because for the first time, we're talking at the food system level. And we are also talking with a full recognition of the complexity of issues, the complexity of the system, and the interconnectedness and the need to finally really align the global agendas, particularly around food security, nutrition security, climate change, and biodiversity. So this year should be a golden year where we come together and we find solutions. Since we have the food system starting very soon, we have the COP26, the COP15, and many other, the ocean meeting, the forest next year, and so on and so forth. So the second point I want to really stress is that in my mind, and I think we all agree, science and innovation and technology can accelerate the transformation that many of us has been calling for. And it is needed if we want to have a more efficient, a more inclusive, a more resilient, and more sustainable food systems. So we need to harness more science, more technology, more innovation. And to promote that science and technology and innovation, we need to make sure that it is guided by the assessment of risk, by the assessment of inequalities, particularly in access to knowledge, but also access to innovation, which is most of the time way too costly for the least and middle income countries. And we have also to look into synergies and trades-off. And we need really to provide that information to governments and policymakers so they take the right decision, knowing what are the synergies and what are the trades-off. And they see science as a tool to really listen certain trades-off. The other point I want to really stress is that science, policy, and society interfaces needs to be strengthened via innovation and via a better dialogue, a better communication. We tend to speak different languages. We need really to come closer and really find other ways of discussing and talking together so that the science make it to policy and make it to the ground at the farmer level. And the last point is really HLPE. It's a very important pillar for this transformation. As mentioned by Chris and by Martin, this group is amazing. The group that has been sitting for the last 2 years have done so much volunteering. So I really admire them for their contribution. I admire them for their resilience. I admire them for giving time really of and know-how from them to the HLPE to guide CFS and to provide high-level expertise to the CFS. So we used a very rigorous and transparent selection process. We had a really high time to pick only 15. We wish we could have much more. The selection criteria that we use, and one of these days you should ask Evarist to show you his Excel sheet. Is an amazing and quite complicated Excel sheet. We use both individual calibers as well as a composition criteria. On the individual caliber, we were looking really at very strong academician, expert with very strong research experience, but also very high quality publication with an international recognition in their sector, in their disciplines. And we looked from the composition criteria for the technical disciplines so that we are covering as many sectors or discipline as possible within the agriculture and the food area. And also we looked at the regional expertise and how much of those experts really know the region and know the development issues at the country level as well as the regional level. So I had the pleasure of chairing a great selection panel that was representing the 3 Rome-based agencies. So we had with us Dr. Arif Hussain, the Chief Economist of the World Food Program. We had with us Dr. Shantanu Mathur, the Lead Advisor on Global Engagement and Multilateral Relations from IFAD. We had with us from the Civil Society Mechanism, Ruchi Tripathi, the Global Practice Lead Resilient Livelihood. And from the CGR, we had with us Mrs. Sonia Vermeulen, Director of Programs within the One CGR system. So we choose 15 world-class, really, and renowned scientists. And right now, I have to pass it to Martin to present those 15 world-class scientists to you. But really, just to give you a flavor, we had a very wide range of expertise. We have people with expertise in economics, in geography, in gender, in political sciences. And we made sure also that we have a very good balance. So we were very happy to end up with 8 women and 7 men. And also, I want to just tell you that the nomination that we got were very diversified as well. We got nominations from government, but also from research institutions, from academia. What we also suggested is that going forward, we want to really do more work in getting much higher number of application. So we need to publicize it more. And we are also discussing with CFS if we could enlarge the group as well. So right now we have those 15 people, and we are really, I wish them all the best. And I thank them in advance for all the work and the support that they're going to provide to CFS and to the organization through CFS. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ismahane, and really good work. Martin, with drum rolls, coming to you to introduce to us the 15 steering committee members.
Thank you very much. And look, Ismahane, you and the technical ad hoc committee have done just an amazing job. I'm really very excited with the caliber, the expertise, the diversity of the group that you've put together. Really excited about it. It's a pleasure just to really quickly, just to kind of give my snapshot of that, and to welcome. I did see some of the new members and existing committee members going on to the new committee on the screen earlier on, so that's welcome. So Olanika Odeyemo, Nigeria, absolute pioneer in One Health, currently doing a lot of work in decontamination containment advice for COVID-19 task force there. Barbara Burlingame has come on from the existing committee from New Zealand, 35 years experience in nutritional science, particularly the interface of food security and health. We know that's an issue. Jennifer Clapp, as well as her fantastic expertise on global governance. What can you say about Jennifer? One of the most amazing writers I've ever come across. Was the project lead for the Global Narrative Report, and just brings a wonderful expertise and also writing skills. Ruben Echeverria from Uruguay, 40 years experience in agricultural innovation in the Global South. Just tremendous global background in rural development, which will be fantastic. Hilal Elver, Turkey, has been the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food from 2014 to 20. Published extensively on global justice, human rights, and the right to food. All of the work that we do around the science and evidence base is grounded in the right to food. So, Hilal, you'll make a fantastic contribution. Bernard Lehman, my partner in crime, current vice chair of the committee, expert, tremendous background, and just fantastic expertise he brought into that, expert in agriculture economics, and always a wise person to ask around policy and political issues. But Bernard, fantastic stuff. Bill Mosley, amazing contribution to expert in tropical agriculture, food security, development policy, and land reform. Nitya Rao, researcher and practitioner, fantastic advocate in the field of human rights. She was the convener and our liaison for the youth report and did an amazing job. Elisabetta Rezin. Elisabetta, it'd be fantastic to welcome you back to the HLP. We had the pleasure of working together in the previous term, so coming back to HLP. Nutritionalist, wonderful experience in food nutrition policies and the right to food. Jose Maria Somsi Venus, ag economist with just an amazing background. You know, and you look at the number of senior roles that Jose Maria has done across EU, FAO, Latin America, across ag economics policy. And I'm delighted that Jose's put his hand up to be the convener and liaison for the very important work that the HLP will do in data collection and analysis report. Akiko Suwa Iserman from Japan, expert in global food security, international trade and development. That's if we look at the incentives around trade and food security, that's going to be an important thing. She's done a number of held a number of senior roles across INRA, OECD, particularly around trade facilitation. Stefan Tagerman from Germany, expert agriculture economist, analysis and modeling, particularly analysis and modeling of food price fluctuation and food policy and the impacts of that. So welcome, Stefan. Shakuntala Thilsted, current member of the committee going on to the new one from Trinidad and Tobago, pioneer in nutrition sensitive fish, agri-food systems, and of course this year's Food Prize Laureate winner for groundbreaking research and impact in that area. So we're very proud, Shakuntala, that we're associated with you. Patrick Webb, amazing background, food security policy, practice, nutrition and development, particularly in the humanitarian space. So, and again, a number of influential roles and advocacy around the GLOPAN, CGIAR, USAID. And lastly, Ian Wright from the UK, based at ILRI, CGIAR experience, again, expert in sustainable livestock systems, very broad experience, research in development for agriculture, environment and food systems across Europe, Africa and Asia. So really, really excited. My heartfelt welcome to the new committee. There's if I could go to the next slide just to wrap up before we go to the questions. Just to give you a bit of a warning that you're going to be very busy. As Ismahane and I have mentioned, we're in a critical pivot point. I think what we do in the next decade is absolutely going to be crucial. We need to be building on some of the previous work around agency and sustainability. We're going to be updating the HLP issues paper, which, you know, this is a thing that's not going to go away for a long time. So that's going to be continued emphasis, obviously, on the pandemic. We need to update the critical and emerging issues, which really will give us the foresight for and impact future work of HLP and CFS. Two very important reports that we're getting into: data collection and analysis. If we look at the digital transformation for the food system, one of the recommendations from the global narrative was to build, you know, a global model for the food supply and the food system. And so the recommendations coming out of that report will be absolutely crucial. And then really just starting, I think probably one of the most complex, but probably most important reports, reducing inequalities in food security and nutrition. We've certainly seen that in COVID-19 situation where inequalities are emphasized. And then we've got to follow up, of course, with the UN Food Systems Summit and some of the things that Ismahane has talked about in terms of strengthening the committee and particularly strengthening national and regional science policy interfaces and the implementation. So with that, I'll thank you very much and I'll hand back to you in terms of the questions. Thank you.
Many, many thanks, Martin, for introducing the new HLPE Steering Committee. And I join you and everyone else in congratulating the new members. And as you have said, they're coming in hands and plates full. Lots of work to do, and it's good to see Patrick Webb has posted something on the chat. And I have a question that has already come in for you, Patrick. A couple of questions have already come through via direct messages to me. And I'll start with one question from Tin Lei. Tin is asking, and then this I'll direct to you, Chris. What do we need to do so that HLPE reports on food systems are seen in the same light, meaning receiving the same kind of media coverage and government attention as the ones by IPCC on climate? I'll invite you, Chris and Ismahane, to speak to this, and probably Martin or anyone else who wants to jump onto that. I have question number 2, and I'll read them all and then you can take them. Again, from Lynn, and she's asking, what are the expected outcomes of the Food Systems Summit? And how do you plan to support, carry out these outcomes? And I'll leave this again with you, Chris, and you can distribute it either to Ismahane or the other steering committee members. And I have a question for you, Hilal, from Globo in Brazil. And the question is, and speaks to the depth that Martin has presented. You are a legal scholar focused on human rights. Is HLPE doing science or rights? Is there a difference with what HLPE does and what the UNFSS Summit Science Group does? And the last question is to Patrick Webb. What can be done more to ensure that the science policy interface at the country level and even regional levels is driven, and with HLPE driving this process as we look to the outcomes of the Food Systems Summit? I'll start with you, Chris, then Ismahane, Martin, and the steering committee members.
Thank you very much, Waiganjo, and to the individual who asked the question. Getting the type of attention media from HLPE reports that is received by, as you referenced, the IPCC reports, I'm not sure we are going to reach that level of interest and excitement. Obviously, the global community is so focused on the climate issue in all its complexity, including land use and food systems. It falls to us as a secretariat and as a committee to make sure that everyone knows when an HLPE report comes out, what it is, what its contents are. There's some homework that we need to do to improve our marketing. The resourcing has been very small, the budgets of the CFS and the HLPE. So there are some structural issues that make it difficult for us to get the kind of recognition and the visibility that we seek, but this is a work in progress. Just tonight's event is a perfect example. We haven't done this before. We're going to continue doing more of this. We have 15 world-class experts who will be speaking for the committee. We will engage them. We will work with the coordination unit of the HLPE. We will work with the chair. We will work with the 3 Rome-based agencies. But it's really about building networks, partnering with others that we haven't worked before. And this is exactly with the summit. You know, we're tied in with the summit. We've taken every opportunity to piggyback on the work that they are doing and have encouraged them to do the same, to work from the 12 years of experience of the CFS and the HLPE. We have a lot to be proud of, which we've heard about tonight. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that the visibility is rising, and hopefully countries will regularize the budget. We have only a handful of contributions from member states. We need to make sure that the HLPE has the kind of budget that can make it live up to its promise. So back to you, Waiganjo.
I'll invite, Chris, thank you very much. I'll invite Ismahane to respond to that question as well, based on where she sits and how she sees things.
Yeah, so thank you, Waiganjo. I think really HLPE reports are different than IPCC, and as Chris said, the tools are different. So the debate we had around climate change, if you remember, guys, took very long for us to get to the IPCC Secretariat. It was really a debate over almost 30 years. And hence IPCC has much more tools. So with HLPE, as Chris said, the group is quite small. We would like it to be much larger. The resources are very limited. We would like them to be much larger as well, to allow us really to go and open up to 300, 400 more, 500 more scientists as the IPCC does. So it's a different means, but my hope is that really with us this year talking about a food summit, food system summit, and talking at the food system, is that we will get the tools and the means really to bring more attention to issues on food security, issues on nutrition security, and galvanize the scientific community to help us much more. So my hope is really with this food system summit and the discussion that brings in not only the agriculture and food people, but also the health ministers, the infrastructure ministers, the energy ministers, that really we get much more visibility to the food system and we get much more support. Because really when we talk about food and nutrition security, in my mind, it's our daily life. And it's a very crucial subject that requires that we all get our heads together and solve it. HLPE has done a great job. HLPE could be strengthened much more, and that's really what Martin and Chris already share with me, but also the CFS member shares. is that we could strengthen it, but to do that, we need means, we need resources, but the will is there. So we are willing to, and we wish all the best to the 15 scientists that were selected, because they have 100% full-time job in addition to their volunteering time with us as HLPE members.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ismahane. Part two of that question, and I hope I didn't cut you off, Ismahane, you had completed your point. Part two of that question is for Martin Collin. This is more a question for your almost handover notes. You have been involved in the Food System Summit to a certain degree, and the question that Lynn is asking is, how will HLP and CFS to an extent be involved in carrying forward the outcomes of the Food Systems Summit? What will be in your handover notes, Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Waganjo. I think, so, I mean, what the summit, as Ismahane said, what the summit is doing is really bringing the attention to food systems, and certainly highlighting a crucial role for science and innovation in this space. And so what we need to do within this fantastic science policy that we already have is, how can we build on that and actually use, that amazing, legitimate and inclusive and transparent policy science interface that we've got? How can we really take some of the learnings from the Food Systems Summit, and how can we, I think, accelerate some of the work, particularly in the actual implementation? I mentioned the implementation at the national level, regional level. I think that's really where we need to be focused on. And just to do an add on in terms of the communication piece, we've talked within the HLP about the need for an engagement strategy, a comms strategy. We need to, I think, significantly scale resources in that. To some extent, I mean, I think we need to also lean on, we're one of the host agencies is FAO, and if you look at FAO's restructuring and new strategy. For the first time, we've got a chief scientist there. So there's some really great things there that I think we need to lean into as well. But to a certain extent, the issues and the challenges that we're seeing, a lot of the emphasis has been in climate change, but as we understand the intersection between food systems, the environment, and health, to a certain extent, the issues and the challenges that we're facing will drive the attention as well. We need to be ready. We need to have up our game in terms of communication and engagement at all levels, globally, nationally, and regionally. But certainly lots to do. And the need to both accelerate in terms of the implementation, but also do a better job of communicating things, I think.
Thank you very much, Martin. The next question, and I'm afraid we'll probably only have time for 2 more questions as posted. And to just mention to the journalists who have sent a couple more questions, we'll organize one-on-one interviews for you with both the 3 speakers as well as the new steering committee members. But the question is for Dr. Hilal Elva, and is that question I was reading about the focus of HLP, whether it's doing science or rights. How do you respond to that, Dr. Elva?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Being in this committee is excellent opportunity for me, an excellent opportunity for human rights lawyers, and the advancement of the right to food. Before, when I was a special rapporteur, I was part of all this report's preparation, and we were giving our suggestions and we were following. And after the report comes out, it was very important for us to bring to our mission trips to the results of the reports. It's extremely important looking at all the technical issues from the perspective of human rights. So when I wanted to be part of this committee, it would be a kind of from the first stage presenting the human rights-based approach to all scientific knowledge and all the discussion about the food system, because science should not be one-sided. Social science must be the part of the science, and we have to look at this in a whole. We always talk about for instance, when we talk about the SDGs, you have to look at the holistic perspective, because with the human rights perspective, we bring ethics and inequality and the human rights and human values. I think it's looks like a soft way of the science, but at the same time, when we talk about food, we are talking about all our cultures and our lifestyles or differences. It brings us together. So that's very, very important, my view. Maybe I am the first human rights lawyer in the committee, but I'm sure it will not be the last one. There must be always a human rights expert in the committee, even more than one, and with the others, sharing all our experience from the past, bringing all these ideas to the future. Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Elvan. Really warm welcome to the steering committee. The last question is to you, Patrick Webb, and was a question on what do we do more to get to the country and national levels in response to the challenge posed by the Food System Summit.
Thank you, Waiganjo. And again, flattered to be here and so honored to be part of this. I think everyone is focused on the summit itself as an event and other similar events later in this year for Nutrition for Growth and others. But of course, the real work starts the morning after. Right? What really happens is not the commitments made at the events themselves, but how countries translate commitments into real practice. And all science policy interfaces, and perhaps especially the HLPE, have to be responsive to what policy makers need to know to be able to effectively use evidence to inform and shape practice on the ground, the policies, the programs and practice. So the more we can do to actually listen, to be responsive to policymaker demands for information, the better. I would argue HLPE is already doing that. But the more we can also talk about how, not just what needs to be done, but how we can move through the various trade-offs, the various potential conflicts that arise when making and shaping policies. How do we facilitate the transformative actions across food systems that are going to get us to the desired goal? So the more we can listen to and respond to the needs of countries, the better. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. With 2 minutes to go, I'll come to our three speakers and I start with you, Ismahane. Final message based on what you have heard and what you're seeing, what's your closing word?
Thank you very much, Waiganjo. From my perspective, I think it's time for action. So I'm looking up to the HLPE members to really help me as a chief scientist to how could we push the bar? How could we make sure that what we know and what we need to know makes it to the farmers, make it to the users at a large scale. So I'm really looking up to you to help us really make impact, to really get to the SDGs, if possible before 2030, even if it's a dream, but really, if you could guide us to where science is and what kind of science and innovation we should capitalize on, and put at work at the farmer level and at the consumer level and the users level. Over to you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ismahane. Martin Cole, to you for a wrap-up message, and probably you could also mention some of the low-hanging fruits. You mentioned what the handover note looks like, some low-hanging fruits for the new steering committee.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think kind of the way I like to think about this really is, you know, I think what we do in the next 10 years is absolutely crucial for our kids and their kids in terms of being able to feed ourselves in a way that we still have a sustainable planet to live on. So this is really tough stuff. I think we need to, we really need to pivot and accelerate. If we carry on, the Global Narrative Report really taught us that we're not on track for the Sustainable Development Goals unless we really have a focus on implementation and acceleration of what we're doing. We're really not going to be in a good place in 10 years' time. So no pressure, guys, but this committee is extremely important. And you know, my own very personal view is that you have something here which is a you know, fantastic example of international collaboration with all of the issues going on in the world. This has been a shining light in terms of international collaboration. We need to lean into it, use what we've got, scale it, and accelerate things, and do that in a way that leaves nobody behind. So thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And once again, really grateful that you joined us very early on Wednesday, your time. Chris, for your wrap-up statement.
Well, thanks, Waiganjo. And again, thanks to everybody who took the time to be here. I'm so impressed by this panel, current panel, and those coming in, starting in the next few weeks. I think we all want to see the potential that is so obviously there realized to the full potential. It's an incredibly important time for CFS and the HLPE and the UN system. Finally, we have heads of state engaging like never before in the complex world of this food system transformation. We certainly want to work with all those who have been part of this summit to end hunger and malnutrition. We can work together. We certainly find common cause. There's so much work to be done that there's absolutely no reason to be fighting over who leads. It's just pick up a shovel and let's start to dig. And CFS is an incredible example. It's an amazing model of inclusive, science-based policymaking advice, and the HLP's reports are really second to none in terms of their quality. So we all need to be ambassadors of CFS and the HLPE. We need to build the political and the financial support to help to make those improvements that Ismahane had suggested. And we also need member states to champion the CFS and the HLPE to make those changes and make those resources available. So thank you again, Waiganjo. Great job moderating.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Ismahane. Thank you, Martin. That's all we had time for today. Again, if you want us to help organize a one-on-one interview for you, I've put the email address cfs@fao.org. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we wish you the very best of the rest of your day. Bye-bye.